Hello and welcome to Zero Point Energy, where there's 0 point what we talk about and just as much energy. I'm Sean.
This is Jorge.
And tonight we're talking about, I want to say it's a great movie. It's kind of an odd movie for today's audiences. It's the 1993 hit Falling Down, starring Micheal Douglas, Robert Duvall.
This is such a weird movie. It makes me have so many feelings. Just wow.
I mean, if you half-ass the explanation, it is a Karen with a gun.
I wouldn't even call it that. It's a guy who had emotional issues and then slowly started going down the rabbit hole, as you said.
True, but the main point is he sees the flaws with the world. Like, early in the movie, he goes into a convenience store and he's short on money. He's just trying to make change so he can use the payphone. And the guy tells him he has to buy something. He won't break a dollar bill. He needs to buy something and get change. So he goes to get a can of soda. Now, this is 1993. A can of soda should have cost 50 cents, 60 cents at most. And this guy charges him 85.
Okay, but to be fair, it was the 90s, but in California. It might be more. Our frame of reference is the Midwest.
Well, it's also just general price. Like, it's roughly how much things were is that they make that the point is after he charges him, Micheal Douglas' character defense. That's the way he's credited in the title. His character's name is D-F-E-N-S. Defense.
Okay, to be fair, his character name is Bill Foster. But yes, he's known as Defense.
Well, he points out to the store clerk that that's not even going to leave him enough money to make a phone call. And the whole point of him coming in there is to get change to make a phone call. And the price is outrageous. So he snaps and he starts smashing up the store. And he's just smashing the displays, asking, how much do you charge for this? And every time the clerk answers him, it's too high because the prices are inflated. Like he's expecting normal prices. Finally, I guess the clerk catches on because he makes his way back to the can of soda. He picks it up. Can of soda, 12 ounces. How much? The clerk goes, 50 cents. Perfect. Sold. Puts 50 cents on the counter and walks out.
That's the one weird thing. Like, the entire time in this movie, he's rampaging around, but he has enough presence of mind to, whenever he's trying to make a purchase or get something, some kind of transaction, he pays the price. Like, okay, with the store owner, he says 50 cents, and he pays the 50 cents. But everybody else, he doesn't complain. It's just that.
Yeah. His issue is taking advantage of people. Now, this movie is set in the time right after the Rodney King riots ravaged their way through Los Angeles. So, some things got inflated because supply chain issues, looting, the widespread destruction, and just cleaning up after that. Because those riots took place in 1992. This movie is set in 1993. So, like, it feels like the main character is just, he wants things to be the way they were before. When you walked into a place and what you asked for is what you got, and you knew the prices, you knew what to expect while you were there.
Okay, but to be fair with that, you say it's a price for what you expect. Everybody grows up. Like, I remember when gas was like $1.50, maybe $2 at most in the 90s. And everybody looks at the past like things were better back in the day. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean they actually were.
Right, and like, I don't think his main thing is the societal issue that he doesn't think that they're going to fix themselves. But people shouldn't be. He doesn't think people should be profiting off of that. So like, he goes later in the movie. It was literally just a couple scenes past. He goes to basically the fake version of McDonald's. Or he goes to this burger shop that sells breakfast in the morning, and it is a few minutes past 11:30. And 11:30 is when they stop selling breakfast. And he asked them. He orders breakfast, and the cashier said, "We don't. It's after 11:30. We don't sell breakfast now." And it's like 11:36. That's 6 minutes. So like they haven't even finished cleaning up the breakfast stuff from the back yet. They could make him his order. He's the only person in line ordering breakfast. And he even asked to talk to the manager, and the manager's like, "Well, you can't get breakfast now because it's after 11:30." And it's one of the, I can't remember if he mentions it, but there was a time when they didn't stop selling breakfast until noon. So it's a more recent change to start selling it at 11:30.
Wait, really? When was that?
I remember when I was a little kid, McDonald's used to go almost over to noon. They didn't do all day, but they did to like 12, 1 o'clock. Like, the lunch when you would start, but you could still order breakfast. They didn't just, we're changing menu now so you can't order.
Okay, nowadays in 2023, they literally cut off at 10:30. What the hell?
Yeah, now they cut off at 10:30, and like, even if you're the next person in the line, you wanted breakfast. Like, no, we don't sell breakfast now, and they're firm about it. And that's what they're doing to him. He was literally next in line, and now it's after breakfast time, so they won't sell him breakfast. He was in line to get breakfast before they stopped selling breakfast.
Well, I mean, we can't really say that. We only saw the time until, like, right then.
Well, we see that there's one customer ahead of him. So I think the expectation for the audience is to assume that customer was there and they took that extra few minutes.
Okay. All right.
So if there wasn't one customer ahead of him, he would have gotten the breakfast he wanted. And it's just like he wishes they wouldn't do that. So he pulls a gun and he's just like, "Well, I have a gun. Make me breakfast." And they're like, "Well, it's lunchtime." They're like, "Well, fine. Give me like a number one combo." And they go and make it for him, and he takes it. And like, yeah, he's still scaring people with the gun, but he takes the burger, and he gets upset because he unwraps the burger, and it's this flat, mushy, deformed, horrible burger. You know, a McDonald's burger. But it does not look like the picture on the menu. The picture on the menu is that pretty, beautiful, professionally shot, uncooked beef patty and everything. That, the way they always do those fake pictures to make the beautiful food. They're like, why? Why can't you even attempt to make it look half as good as the picture? To make it attempt to look like that. That's my expectation, and you give me garbage. And expect me to be happy with it. And pay you full price for it. But then he pays for it and leaves. Because he unwrapped the burger and took a bite out of it. He paid for the service he asked for while complaining about the service he asked for.
I mean, yeah, in one respect, it's like we're looking at the world through his lens, and at the same time, yes, he's a little unhinged. Okay, not a little. But the point is that the world is made in such a way, and we're all just expected, and we do just accept it. I mean, the beginning of the movie, it had a Christ died for your sins sticker, and another one that says, "How am I driving? Review me at 1-800-EAT-SHIT." Like, nobody cares. And that's the whole point. And like, some people are like, "This guy died for your sins. Listen to me." This one is like, "You know what? Say what you want. I don't care."
Yeah, and that's one of the things that you can see. It is a different way of thinking about society and why we accept the things we do. Why why is it when a corporation tells us something, we just accept it, we just do it? What happened to independent thought? What happened to free thought? What happened to professional courtesy? Where is the notion of the customer is always right? Where is the helping your fellow man? Like, the course of this movie, the character defense Bill, he walks his way through South LA to his wife's house on Venice. And the early parts of the movie, he's walking through what is referred to as gangland. It is that section of the city that the gangs are so just, they basically own it. The cops barely respond there. If they do respond, they don't care. So, like, every time someone reports him for something, they're like, "Oh, it's a white guy." And even the cops are like, "Really? A white guy did it? Walking through that neighborhood?" Like, there's a point where two Latino gangbangers kind of jump him in the park, and he beats them with a baseball bat to defend himself. Like, they started it.
One thing though,
Yeah.
with that, he did defend himself, and he was trying to be nice. He's like, okay, I understand this is your territory, all that jazz. Well, what's it called? Just let me pass through. We don't have to have any trouble. And then they proceed to say, give us the briefcase. He had a nice shiny briefcase. Apparently it's worth money. I have no idea how much they're worth. And that's what causes the issue. And then he starts beating him with the baseball bat.
Yeah, like, he just wanted, in his words, to go home. He's just trying to go to his wife's house. It's all he wants. It's his daughter's birthday. He wants to spend it with her. And that's like one of the driving factors of the movie, is this man trying to get to his daughter on her birthday. And it's, in his mind, it's, damn anything that gets in his way, nothing's stopping him from being with his family.
At the beginning of this...
home.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Like, he's just going home. So he beats these two guys in the park to defend himself. A little bit later on, you see him, he's walking down a main street, and those gangbangers are in a car with another gangbanger who they do a drive-by while he's standing at a payphone on the phone. He is absolutely unfazed by the hail of bullets around him and the innocent people getting shot. He just walks right through it, finds where their car crashed a block or two away, and just calmly walks up to them and, "You missed." And then he picks up their gun, shoots, apparently having never fired a gun before, because he misses, and he goes, "Oh, look at that. I missed too."
The amount of apathy that he has. I mean, part of it I can understand. If you're like being full of a specific emotion, it makes sense, because you can't just pull yourself out of it if you don't have that kind of training type thing, But then at the same time, like, how much did he have to go through for that to be his default at that point? You know what I mean? Like, uncaring, no conscience, or, okay, a little conscious, but you know what I mean? Because there are moments in the movie where he does show his conscience. Like, he was going through a rich person's backyard, and he goes in, he cuts his hand on some kind of razor wire, he starts complaining, and then he can hear the cops coming, because of course it's a rich neighborhood, and then he takes the hand of a little girl, and then they rush inside the house so that they can't see him with the helicopter and such, and then he notices that she's bleeding. He thought he hurt her, and, like, of course he didn't want to hurt her. He has his own little girl. So it's it's weird that he can go back and forth and then suddenly be completely cold. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but his coldness is always in the face of adversity. It's if something is stopping him or challenging him from completing his goal of getting home. Like when nothing's standing in his way, when nothing's obviously trying to stop him, he's not happy, but he's calm. He's reasonable. He's personable.
I wouldn't exactly call it personable, but I understand what you're saying. I mean, because personable kind of makes it more seem like he's almost customer servicey. You know what I mean?
Well, there's the scene a little bit before the rich people neighborhood scene where he's at a military surplus store. And while he's in there looking around, a detective comes in and starts asking questions about him. And the store owner defends him. Like he hides him and tells the detective that he hasn't seen anyone like that. And that is because the store owner has been listening on the police scanner all day to this guy's journey across town, and he supports it. Well, we find out later that he thinks that Bill is like him, and he's a neo-Nazi. And coincidentally, most of Bill's victims have been Latino, or black, or just minority. So there's that confusion of this neo-Nazi. It's like, oh, this white guy is becoming this one-man wrecking ball coming through the town and causing harm to minorities as he's moving through their neighborhoods into the wider parts of town. And as soon as Bill finds out that this man's a neo-Nazi, it instantly drops his friendliness. He drops his personality. Personality goes to that cold, aggravated, annoyed, you're an obstacle. He absolutely did not want anything to do with this man. He hated being compared to any form of racist, of being seen as just this savage lashing out. He has a mission. In his mind, it's coincidence that the people he's lashed out against are minority. They weren't the targets.
Now, to be fair, he was driving into a minority area. So, does that mean that the defense factory he works at is in the outskirts of New York? Sorry, of L.A., Santa Monica, that area, or?
I think it's closer towards LAX. So, yeah, on the highway he was on, he would have ended up there without the traffic in an hour or so.
Okay, so I mean, he's not racist, not hateful. He just has a couple of racist tendencies. I mean, when he was in the Korean gentleman's shop, he said, "There's a V in 5. It's 5, not 5."
Yeah, because the shop owner, when he's telling him how much he owes him for the soda, he keeps going, it's 85 cents, 85 cents. So there's a V, it's 5 cent. There's a T there. He's correcting his English in an attempt to, like, he's upset by that he's not using proper English. And he does have a racist moment of saying, you take my American money, you work in an American country, you could at least learn the American language.
Now, to be fair, that does make a little bit of sense. I mean, speak the language. What do you call it? My own parents were immigrants. They had to learn the language. And I get it, but at the same time, sometimes accents don't lend themselves to that. I mean, in Japanese, you can't really pronounce an L or an R. It's either one, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's L, sometimes it's R, other times it's both. You just don't know which one to use, and yeah.
Yeah, so it's understandable. And like I said, it's racist the way he says it, but I don't think he viewed it as racist. He got annoyed. Which, okay, it's hard to justify it. Like you kind of have to look at it from the point of view of the early '90s, which I was a child then, but I still remember interactions like that even in my own life. Um, Even thinking like as a kid going into stores, like why don't they speak English? Everyone else around me speaks English. Why don't they speak English? Could it be someone with a heavy accent working the store, like working at a counter and stuff, especially like little bodegas in the neighborhood, little corner stores? As a child, I never thought anything of thinking like that. Now, as an adult, 38 years later, I realized that was a horrible thought. That's kind of racist of me. And, you don't think like that nowadays. Which is one of those things. Like I said, reviewing this movie in 2023, we've got a full 30 years since this movie came out. So, there's questionable things in this movie that were not questionable then.
I mean, to be fair, because of when it was made, it's maybe not just about how you think things. Maybe it was actually meant in a different way, even that we can't perceive now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly never really thought that way as a kid. This is a weird story. It might be too funny, but when I was a kid, I was fascinated by other cultures. I mean, I remember watching what do you call it? Hindi TV on the weekends, and I would listen to Bollywood music or watching Korean soap operas. Subtitles in English and stuff.
I did the same thing. Growing up in Chicago, channel 23 or 21, depending on what TV you were on, because they literally did change depending on what neighborhood you lived in. But that channel that played the international stuff, the Polish programming, the Hindi programming, the Korean programming. I would watch that all day long because that stuff's interesting. I don't understand a word they're saying, but that's actually interesting. They play music, and this is good music. I like this.
Dude, on Polish TV music videos, I literally saw my first set of tits. I was like 7.
Yeah.
And what do you call it? But back to my story. I what do you call it? I was watching the Chinese channel, and I forgot what it was called. Sorry, but I really wanted to know how they were saying what they were saying. I wanted to learn the language, and I had learned everything from my mom up until that point. So I was like, "Mom, can you teach me this?" And she's like, "No, I don't speak that language." And I was crestfallen. A few weeks later, I was at a McDonald's with my ma. We were watching I'm assuming Chinese family because I was at least able to notice the differences in the languages. You know what I mean? And it sounded like Chinese, and I was like, "Mom, they know Chinese. How did they learn?" And then my mom said, "The little kid learned it from his mom." And I'm like, "You didn't teach me." I was that innocent. I was like, "You're holding back." And she's like, "No, I don't know the language." She knows the language because that's what she was taught. And for me, it was always, I want to learn more. I want to learn that language. It was never speak my language,
Well, yeah. And even as a kid, I kind of had that where it's you would hear somebody fluently speaking another language and oh, that's so cool. I kind of wish I knew that. For me, it was hearing the broken language. There's pick one. And ideally, pick the one that all the people around you understand. Again, by today's standards, that's a horrible way to think. Sometimes you have to forgive the minds of a child, though.
No, I agree.
Well, if you go with some of the professional reviews of this movie at the time, critics, even now, I would consider this movie to have the title that they gave, a black comedy. It's not quite dark comedy, but the funny moments in it are dark. It's the jokes are weird. They're off-putting. They don't make like they would feel out of place in a movie today.
Like, okay, when he was talking with the Korean guy, he was like, he was saying the whole thing about speak the language and stuff, and then he said, "Do you know how much money my country gives your country?" The Korean guy asks how much, and he's like, "Well, I don't know how much, but I'm pretty sure it's a lot." Like, he's complaining, but yet he's not even informed about what he's complaining about.
Yeah.
Like, and okay, yes, but at the same time, it's funny because like he's making a point, and then like, actually, I don't really know. It's that to me at least is funny.
Yeah. Or there's a point where he's on a golf course and he scares this old man who's being an asshole to him anyways, but he fires a shotgun, not at the guy, he shoots a golf ball. But it scares him and he has a heart attack. And the guy dies. As he's dying, he's still having this conversation with Bill, or at least Bill's having a conversation with him, and he cracks the joke of, "Hey, and look on the bright side. Now you won't have to wear that silly little hat anymore." Or something like, or maybe he says, "How does it feel to have to die with that silly little hat on?" Like he's making fun of what he's wearing as he's dying.
Yeah, that was funny too.
And it was funny. It's like, no, the other one. Yeah. Sorry, we have text up on our screen that we're reading at the same time. No, up a little bit. Oh, more. Alright, so there's a reviewer, John Truby, who said the film was an anti-Odyssey story about the lies of the American dream. And in his words, he can't remember laughing so hard during a movie.
I mean, is it laughing so hard at the irony, like that kind of humor, or is it laughing so hard at the ridiculousness of it? I mean,
I think that's what the black comedy aspect is it's funny because it absolutely should not be funny. Like, it takes it that step further than your normal dark comedy. Like, dark comedy is, you laugh and it's like, oh, I'm an asshole for laughing. And the black comedy, you laugh because that is absolutely not funny. But I can't help but giggle.
I mean, I love this kind of comedy because it shows the contrast between like what is and what it really should be, because you speak about the ideal of it and then you get shown the bloody, black, absolutely horrible truth of it.
Yeah. Like, we learned that Bill lost his job working for a defense contractor, and like, he always believed that he was doing good. He was an American hero. He was defending the nation against communism. Because, if we all remember, in 1991, the fall of the Berlin Wall, that's the end of communism. Not really. It took a little bit longer, but, that was the big end of communism event. Well, as someone working in an industry dedicated specifically to coming up with technologies to go against communism, and that, I can see where he would think of himself as a bit of a hero for having that type of job, and then to just lose that job for no real reason, or the reason he says is he was overeducated and underskilled. Now, I take that to be, he's a very well-educated man. He's an engineer. He has degrees, but he has a knowledge base in a very specific thing. When you no longer need somebody to do this specific task, you have to repurpose them. If they don't have any other skill set except the skills needed to do this specific task, how do you repurpose them?
I get that, I really do, but at the same time, it's like, even as a kid, after this movie came out, I was like, go to school, act good, get good grades, do what you're supposed to do. Go to college, get a good, get a good degree, get a job, get married, have kids, have a good life, and then die. I mean, You were told, follow the path. You'll have a good life that way. I tried, personally, and I kind of relate to this just in terms of, I was lied to.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
He followed the path. He had a good life, and then his good life imploded. He lost his job. He lost his family. He lost everything good in his life.
Now, to be fair, in the timeline, it was lost his family, then lost his job. But still.
And, it turns out he lost his family because of his rage issues. This isn't just one day he snapped and went on a rampage across the city. This has been building. He's had anger issues in the past. His own mother, when we meet her towards the end of the movie, is scared shitless of this man.
Yeah.
She's showing the police detectives his bedroom, and she makes a point of, if he wasn't at work right now, I wouldn't be anywhere near his room. I'm not allowed in here. This is her son's bedroom in her own house.
She also said she didn't want to be a burden to him. He's living with her, but she's acting like he's the man of the house, like it's his house, and she's living with him.
Yeah.
I don't know how dark a man has to be to have that kind of interpersonal relation with someone, but Jesus. He seems fairly normal, even at the beginning of the movie. And then slowly, it's like we see, not just him, but the entire premise of who he seems to be unravel. And then we see that this guy is crazy as hell.
Yeah, well, another review from the 90s for this movie from the LA Times, it even reads falling down encourages a gloating sense that we, the long-suffering victims, are finally getting our splendid revenge. The ultimate hollowness of that kind of triumph reflects the shallowness of a film all too eager to serve it up. So, the critics hailed this movie and shit on it in the same sentence sometimes. They're pointing out it is a shallow, just kind of cash grab movie, but it has a point.
I mean, if this movie were any deeper, I don't think it would actually get across its message, because it was very topical, as it were. Not topical in terms of a topic, topical in terms of not going too deep. You know what I mean?
Honestly, if you removed the comedy elements of this movie, which I feel would kind of turn into a movie like No Country for Old Men. That movie, my personal opinion, sucks. Now, I absolutely get why it earned so much critical acclaim and why it earned the awards it did. Beautiful cinematography, beautiful sound design, all of that. Technical level, it's a great movie. But it is very, very serious. This movie starts with a point and spends its entire runtime driving its point home with nothing in between. We have a point. Here's our point. Did we mention the point? Go fuck yourself with the point.
I still don't understand.
Great movie, but weird. Whereas this movie, which again came out 25 years before No Country for Old Men did. 20 years. It has its point. It spends the entire runtime hitting you over the head with its point, driving that point home. But it has moments of levity. It has those comedy elements that are still, this is funny, but hey, did we mention the point? Laugh at me, but you know the point is here, right? And I think that makes it better.
I mean, I can see how that would make it better because the comedy is able to quote unquote take you out of it a little bit and then back to hammering the point home. But to me, it was more along the lines of I liked the quote unquote going against the grain of things.
Yeah.
But it also it made it so that it felt like it was more a story along the lines of like American Psycho, and I don't mean that like you see somebody normal and then go crazy. No, that's exactly what I mean. Sorry, that somebody's seems normal and then going crazy, but the entire time he was crazy. We just slowly get to see how crazy he is.
Yeah. And I think that's the point of the movie. Like, one of the big main points of the movie is this is a man who spent, again, like, his life. He followed the path. He followed the course. He did what he was told. Do the hard work. Get the good education. Do what your bosses say. Be this example that we set forth. And then to have that come full circle to him and be told, oh, the only thing you've ever done is what other people tell you. You're no longer necessary. You're irrelevant because we need people who are flexible and don't always do as they're told. That would make anyone snap. If I told you every day of your life, you have to live your life this way. You have to do it like this. You have to do what you're told. Do as you're shown. And then one day, oh, hey, you know everything that you've ever done in your life? That's wrong. You're wrong for doing it. Get fucked.
That kind of goes back to the racist argument. Be racist. This is what you're supposed to do. Later on, yeah, racism is bad.
Kinda?
I mean, realistically speaking. And I mean, it kind of also affects today because the entire time, like I said, my own life, I was told, get a job, have a good life. And that didn't happen. And other people were told, go to work and such. And then suddenly we're hit with a pandemic. 2 years of not working, more or less. And then suddenly we have to go back to working. And we're like, but we had free time. We don't want to go back to work. Make me work less time. More pay. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. What I'm saying is like people are noticing that doesn't have to be what we do.
Yeah, like we can have the flexibility. We can do different things. We shouldn't have this rigid schedule, this rigid set of guidelines that we must follow no matter what. Be flexible. Be flexible with your time. Be flexible with your goals. Be flexible with your education, with the way people are trained. Not everybody can fit this cookie cutter mold, and if you force people to just cram them into this mold, eventually they're going to break. Some people are too much for the mold. Some people aren't enough for the mold. And the ones that aren't enough are going to get stressed to the point where they snap. And that will be horrific for them and everyone around them. And the ones who are too much for that mold are just going to burn out and just be the sad husk of people that you'll walk into an office and you'll see this guy sitting in his cubicle and think, I bet he has no life outside of this job. Because he absolutely fucking doesn't. Everything that he had that wasn't his job was beaten away from him by his job.
No, that goes for office workers and for physical workers. I mean, if you do like work in a factory, that job will literally kill your body and you will not be able to do much when you're older. If you do office work, that job will literally kill your mind and you probably won't think you can do much when you're older.
Yeah. And yeah, you end up with this army of jobless people who, as this movie points at, are either overeducated and underskilled or overskilled and undereducated. Like, I personally fall into one of those categories. I am undereducated and overskilled. I never finished high school. I was kicked out. But I have done so many different jobs in my life. I have what is a jack of all trades kind of skill set. I can do carpentry. I can do electrical work. I can do plumbing. I can do that. Like, I'm one of those people who has been given that absolute bullshit excuse when applying for a job of, you're too skilled for this job.
Yeah, I hate when that happens.
And it's because I'm applying for entry level positions. So it's like, well, you should be management. Well, okay, my skill set says I can be management. My education says I can't. So I'm undereducated and overskilled. And then technically we would say Jorge is the opposite of that. He's a well-educated person. He's an intelligent person, but he's done a specific type of work, mostly office work, for most of his life. He has specific skills. So when there's no longer a job that needs those specific skills, he becomes the overeducated, underskilled worker.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, recently I've been able to do more stuff. I worked at a pizzeria. I worked at a restaurant,
Yeah, you have little bits of skill in other things, but your main skill set is a very specific set of office style work.
Long live bureaucracy!
Yeah. we need the bureaucrats, unfortunately. So there usually isn't a shortage of work for people like that in current society. But again, it's a thing. People like that, they also burn out because there's not much else to them unless they take the time to diversify themselves and find something that makes them better. In a way, that's why we do this podcast. This is our release. This is our don't get burnt out by our jobs. This is us having fun, hanging out as friends, watching movies, and then talking about them, talking about other bullshit. Like, yeah, with this movie, it's kind of a deep conversation, but still enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, we laughed, we cried. Okay, we didn't cry. We're men. You know what I mean.
We're men, men.
Men. No, wait, that's copyrighted.
But yeah, that's. I don't know another way to describe this movie. Like, it's definitely worth watching if you've not seen it, and it kind of holds up. I mean, 30 years old now, and you can empathize with the main character, where especially the point of he's being called racist when he's not. He's being compared to a racist when he's very obviously not. Or he finds offense in that comparison. He's worked his literal dream job and then been told he's useless for that job because he's too skilled at it. And then that whole just snapping and feeling bad for yourself and just wanting to rage at the world. And in this movie, the main character does rage at the world. Like I know a lot of people have that feeling. They want to do that, and they don't because consequences. So sometimes a movie like this, you can see what happens without those consequences. But that's another point of this movie. The police do eventually catch on to this one guy going through these different neighborhoods, working his way across the city. So they catch up with him, and eventually they do stop him. And it's kind of sad. Like, it's the little girl's birthday party, and the cops just shot her father. Now, she didn't see it, but there's literally a point where the detective who ended up shooting Bill, who the detective is played by Robert Duvall, he's talking with Bill's wife, the little girl's mom. And while they're talking, all these kids come up to the house, and then the mom remembers, oh, those are her friends. It's the birthday party. She hasn't been told yet. So Robert Duvall goes, let her be a little girl. Let her have her fun. Tell her tomorrow.
Now, one thing about that, do you think it was a bit of white privilege, the fact that he was able to go through basically 3/4 of the city so that he could actually get to the house before they caught on? Or do you think it was just the fact that it started in Gangland and because of the time period, that's why he was able to basically get away with it up to a point?
I think that probably had a lot to do with it. That the cops didn't believe it was him because white guy. Like every time we see the cops, you see one of the witnesses, one of the victims come in and like, so what happened to you? Well, this white guy in a white office shirt and a tie, he smashed up my store. No, so he robbed you. No, he just smashed my store and then he bought a can of Coke and left. And then they go to the restaurant and yeah, he shot up the place, but he didn't hurt anybody. He asked for a burger, paid for it, and left. Like, all these businesses he's going to, like all these people who are making claims against him, they're all, even they're pointing out this white guy did this bad thing to me, but then he did the right thing after bitching about having to do the right thing?
To a point.
Like, even the gangbangers who did the drive-by, they had a girl with them in the car, and she survived the wreck and everything. And she's giving the cops a description of this white guy who beat up the two guys with a bat, and then they wrecked their car trying to shoot at him, and like most of the guys ended up dying or in the hospital. And all the cops are just like, yeah, really? A white guy did that to you? What gang did you guys piss off?
Yeah, they just wouldn't believe it. Cause
no one is believing any of the victims because it's a lone white guy doing this in all these different minority neighborhoods that are run by the gangs. So I guess there is that little bit of white privilege. That, yeah, this white guy, nobody believes the white guy's capable of it. They're just letting him go.
Yeah. I mean, I also think it's the fact that all of this started in Gangland. So, yes, white privilege, but at the same time, it's like, why would a white guy even be there? So it kind of makes sense.
Literally, only reason he's there was he was stuck in traffic that was so bad. He got out of his car and figured it'd be faster to walk. And it was, because like literally hours passed. It's evening when they circle back to the neighborhood where his wife lives, which is on the opposite side of the highway from where he was stuck in traffic. And the car is still there. The police called a tow truck to come get it, and it couldn't get there because the traffic was so bad. Like, when they show the traffic jam, some of the same cars are still around him. The easiest one to spot is there is this convertible. There is two gay guys in it who are in the front seat, and they're having this heated conversation. Many hours pass in the course of this movie, and when we see that traffic jam again, those two guys in that convertible were like 3 cars farther ahead down the queue than they were at the beginning of the movie.
I did not even notice that. Wow.
So for 3-5 hours, however long it took this guy to walk through 4 different neighborhoods, It's insane. It literally was faster for him to walk. And he didn't even take the direct path. He just walked in the straight line. He did the as the crow fly thing, so he was cutting through backyards and stuff too. When literally he just had to cross the highway.
Yeah. Ay. Like, I've never actually seen traffic so bad that you could not get across town in less than an hour. But again, I've never been to LA. I don't actually know how big it is. But
LA
Jesus.
is a little bit bigger than Chicago in terms of density and how big of a land it is. New York City, Chicago, Los Angeles, Houston. Those are like the four major metropolises in the U.S. So those are your examples of this is how much land mass a single city takes.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, LA is massive. Like Los Angeles County of Los Angeles is almost the size. That's bigger than Cook County. And all of us here in Illinois are familiar with how ungodly huge Cook County is. And yeah, that's what LA County is to California. Again, I would say, like, if you've not seen this movie, it's worth the watch. It has its fun moments, but the fun moments are
head turners.
They're not meant to be funny. They're not meant to be belly laugh inducing. These are moments of like you giggle because your brain can't help but find the humor in this bad situation.
I don't know. I always think that humor's there for a reason. I mean, it's not just a relief. It's also a reaction of incredulity. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and the humor serves a point in this movie. Like you said, it's a great movie, and the humor helps move the plot along and gives you that rest between just being beaten over the head with the plot of the movie, of them hammering this point over and over and over. You need those moments of funny. Some of the moments are funny or cringy as fuck. They were cringy as shit when I was a little kid when I saw this movie the first time with my parents. They were cringe-inducing when I saw it later in life as a teenager. When I saw it a couple years ago in my 20s, it was horrible. And now, a full 30 years after this movie came out, it's still cringy as fuck. And it's every time the cops are interacting with each other, when the police are joking with each other, it is all horrible, horrible joking, belittling not just other characters, but belittling the entire plot of the movie.
Yeah, that was a little weird. It was
this is one of those movies that is the police are bad because they're the good guys.
Okay, I wouldn't go that far. I'd go more along the lines of like the police are bad because they just don't give a crap. They're a part of the entire I don't give a crap anymore. But
yeah,
like this is the system. This is what I do in the system. Who fucking cares? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it to me, it made it more along the lines of like, this is part of the reaction of defense. You know what I mean? Like, not directly, but quote unquote, because of this reality, defense can get away with it. Not just the white privilege, but you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's everything leads up to him being able to do what he does. It's not just him getting away with it. Although, if you watch this movie start to finish, for the gamers out there, the people who do the GTA roleplay, you could make an entire mission, a whole good session out of reenacting this movie. Because they literally have the moments of, he starts barehanded, then he goes to the convenience store. Weapons upgrade, he gets a baseball bat. Then he goes through the Latino neighborhood, up onto the park. He sits, he's resting, he's having his lunch. And he gets attacked and beats those guys with the bat. Then he gets a gun. No, he gets a knife from that.
A balisong, butterfly knife.
Butterfly knife. And then from there you get the drive-by scene where he takes the guns out of the cars. He doesn't kill the gangbangers. He could. He has their guns. He has a knife. Instead, he takes a bag, takes their guns, and takes them with him.
No. Hold on. He picks up the balisong. Then later on, they find him again. That's when they shoot at him. They miss him. They miss him completely. God damn it, people. Yeah. Then he picks up the guns and he shoots the guy in the leg.
Their guns, and now he has guns. So, another weapon upgrade. Like, you're literally watching a GTA character finding the weapon drops.
Not just that. The last one. The most epic one. The grenade launcher. No, wait. Rocket launcher? No.
What rocket launcher.
Rocket launcher.
He is a shoulder-fired disposable rocket.
Also, he gets help from a little kid. Like, I don't know what video games were out, but the fact that he knew, I was like, without the internet, hell yes.
The little kid says he knows how to do it from watching TV. And you had stuff like that on MacGyver and A-Team, Knight Rider.
Gotta love the 90s, goddamn.
Like Magnum P.I. had stuff like that in it.
Okay, that was more 80s.
So, 80s, this is the early 90s, so the 80s shows were still on TV for the most part. Some of them had just hit syndication by that point. So it makes sense that this 9-10-year-old kid, he's seen people use that thing before.
Still, my favorite scene in the movie, honestly. Also, people will be able to relate to this, okay? Construction every fucking where. Chicago, literally, same freaking thing. How long has the Dan Ryan been down? I want to say 5 years now?
Yeah. And I love that when he asked the question, what are you doing here? Fucking doing construction. What's it look like I'm doing? What's wrong with the street? I don't know. It's broken. It wasn't broken 2 days ago. What the fuck did you do to the street?
And then?
That's how construction is sometimes. You'll be driving down a road and perfectly fine. You come out the next day, that road has been completely trenched for the next 5 miles. A, when the fuck did they do all that work? 2, why?
I swear, just make the entire thing out of concrete already. Stop putting down the, what is it called? The tar stuff?
Well, no. The asphalt is good. The asphalt is 98% recyclable. It's useful.
Fine, but just make it so it won't. Make it so that it won't break down anymore. I mean, we have Roman roads that are still good.
Sure.
Okay, I'm done. I mean, I can't really think of anything else to say. I mean, we hit all the talking points I wrote down.
Yeah, kind of the final moment, he does have the most epic weapon of them all. Squirt gun. He challenges the cop, played by Robert Duvall. He challenges him to a shootout where they draw on each other. And technically, Bill wins that. He pulls that gun out of his pocket and shoots Duvall in the face before he gets shot in the chest.
Very true.
And that's kind of what makes the ending sad. The ending isn't really anyone learning a lesson here. It ends with this cop who's trying to retire deciding not to retire. So the guy trying to make his life happy goes back to being miserable doing the job that he's trying to leave.
I mean,
the guy who's fed up with life literally commits suicide by cop.
Okay, but to be fair, the subplot of the movie is the fact that Robert Duvall's character, Prendergast, is trying to move to Lake Havasu, with London Bridge with his wife because his wife is having a nervous breakdown because their daughter died, 2 years old, and they're blaming it on SIDS. So, yeah. And for those who don't know, sudden infant death syndrome. And the fact that he's trying to make his wife happy because she's so, like, she basically seems like an anxious wreck.
Yeah, and there was apparently some point earlier that they never they mention it, but they never clarify it, where Duvall's character Pendergast got injured, so he refuses to go out on a beat anymore, so he's been on desk duty ever since. They never say what that injury is and why he doesn't go out, but they do keep alluding to his wife having delusions that when he does come home from work, he's a ghost. Because he was killed in the line of duty because he was gone for so long. So his injury might be actually psychosomatic. He might just be projecting that his wife's fear of him getting injured or dying into himself and just can't bring himself to be on the beat. Because it's not until the end of the movie that he's actually out doing stuff.
And then he gets a call from his wife right before he's actually going to go out to meet up with Defense or Bill Foster.
And he finally stands up to her and tells her just shut up and cook my dinner, woman, and just be happy for me. I'm doing my job. I'll come home when I come home.
Now, which is admittedly very sexist,
but it's also freeing for him, liberating. That's his snap moment. That is him making his life happy, doing as he was told, doing as he was expected, fitting a mold that's not his mold.
I was going to say machista, but the only reason why is because it is a little sexist, but at the same time, it's like he was trying to make her happy and she was still not happy. So basically, it's like, fuck you, because I'm trying. You're not happy. Let me be me.
Yeah. And that's what it is. He's the example of something that was too big for the mold. He's been cramming everything he had into this mold to live up to, to be the thing someone else wanted him to be. And then when he finally breaks out of it, he's happy again. He's happy to be out on the beat. He's happy to actually be investigating a crime, to be out doing something, not just sitting behind a desk. And yeah, it's a sad ending for a good movie, but I think that's the point. You're supposed to be sad.
Like, for me, it is sad, but at the same time, it's like one way of fighting against the mold and then another way. Because Defense fought against literally everything, basically. He was already a little crazy, but he tried to break the mold by literally breaking everybody else, or breaking the entire notion of the world, the way it's set up. And then Prendergast, his mold was a lot smaller. It was his family mold, as it were. You know what I mean? He liked where he was. He liked his job, or at least it seemed like it,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what kind of message that sends, because somebody was able to work within the mold, kind of, and somebody else was just like, you know what? Fuck off.
Yeah. I guess in a way, kind of a decent way to sum this up is, let's use the words of a professional movie reviewer here. We'll do Roger Ebert with his review of the movie. In his words is, some will find it racist because the target of the film's hero are African American, Latino, and Korean, and with a few whites thrown in for balance. Both of these approaches represent a facile reading of the film, which is actually about a great sadness, which turns into madness, and which can afflict anyone who is told after many years of hard work that he is unnecessary and irrelevant. What is fascinating about the Douglas character as written and played is the core of sadness in his soul. Yes, by the time we meet him, he has gone over the edge. But there is no exhalation in his rampage, no release. He seems wary, confused, and in his actions he unconsciously follows scripts that he may have learned from the movies or on the news, while others frustrated misfits vent their rage at innocent bystanders.
But as we all know, there are no innocents.
True. Everybody is horrible. Personal opinion time. Humanity is a plague on decent society.
For me, it's not that bad. For me, it's everybody has their secrets. Everybody has some kind of skeleton in the closet. Except for Jesus and Mr. Rogers.
I mean, Jesus had Mary.
His mother?
His wife.
We're not going there.
It's a gospel that they buried and cut out of the Bible.
Moving on.
Everyone has their secrets.
I hate you. Good night, everybody. This has been ZeroPoint Energy.
Bye-bye.